I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see, will the clerk please take the roll?
Ian Patterson.
Here.
Michael Fay.
Here.
Cal Ellis.
Here.
Olivia Di Francesco. Here. Amy Andrews.
Here.
Next up is public comment. Asa Davis.
Jason Davis, 146 Beechwood Hill Trail. Now that Matt checks out, I hope he returns to the open process as required by town charter and state law to fill his position. I hope within 3 days of ethics deciding they had probable cause. Coincidence, I guess. We should join the modern world and make the clean DCI a hiring requirement, especially for positions with control over town funds and contracts. It's true his father had his expunged years later, but back when Steve was hired, his Pennsylvania armed robbery arrest record was still public info and he would have failed. Who knows, maybe if somebody else had gotten the job then, 2 young women would still be alive today, a town employee would never receive permanent injuries. We wouldn't be out hundreds of thousands of dollars improperly spent, and we wouldn't be staring down the radiation bills for the town garage over $1 million. I've heard there's no limit to what you can accomplish if you don't care who gets the credit. I'd like to be the first to congratulate the new incoming council, whoever they are, for stopping the contract overspending, the bad bid awards, the misuse of town accounts, and dramatically improving the future performance of the DPW department. Last month's rant, 30 minutes. I think I heard Mr. Ellis say he might be treasurer and director of those organizations on official filings, but he didn't really do the job. I can save him a stamp because the questions he wanted to ask, I did, with a certified letter to the address they use on their official tax return. Returned, addressee unknown, attempted, not known, unable to forward. Maybe Mr. Ellis was duped, but this has been going on for years. The 25 Barnacle address in Narragansett he didn't recognize as Jeff Broadhead's house, a short ride from his old Willow Street Narragansett property. The questions you ask can be more important than the answers, so here are 3. First, was anyone reminded of Nixon's "I am not a crook" speech? I was. Nixon also had his supporters right to the very end. Haldeman, Dean, Ehrlichman, Liddy. That story didn't end well for any of them. Next, how would we react if our town treasurer, Maria Lawler, gave that speech, saying she was treasurer in name only, but somebody else had all the responsibility? And last, why isn't there a resignation letter, years ago or even now? If you're not going to do a job, it's better to step aside and make room for somebody who will. It doesn't matter if it's a treasurer for a nonprofit or a town council member. In response to the criminal trespass complaint filed against me by Mr. Patterson and served yesterday by the state police, I'll state for the record, I don't think I've been on his property, the retail gun shop in the RE4 zone, since prior to filing his ethics complaint back in July. That visit was to continue discussion regarding Matchcheck's ethics complaint during open store hours. At no point in time has Mr. Patterson ever indicated my presence was not welcome either before or after. And if I'm wrong, if I'm not turning around sometime in his parking lot because I left my wallet at home, I'm a big boy, I'll apologize. There's no way it was 4 minutes.
Well, he's keeping track, not me, so.
Okay.
He says 4.
All right, well, I'll skip for you. Good luck, everybody. I look forward to hearing rich, bright, and shiny faces I'll be talking to after the new year.
Item number 4, acknowledgements and announcements. Director of Public Works Stephen P. Matchek announces retirement from his employment with Town of Exeter effective October 21st, 2022. Number 5, approval of the agenda order.
Make a motion to approve the agenda order as presented.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Let's see, consent agenda. Do we have anything, Madam Chairman Copeland?
No, we do not.
Okay, anybody want to remove any reports?
4, please.
Number 4?
11, please.
Okay, communications, anybody looking to remove communications? You good? You good, Cal?
Yes, thank you.
Let's see, approval of meeting minutes. think some people were absent on some of these. There's somebody to keep track of.
Yeah. No, I don't
I
think
don't
so.
recall,
Yeah.
Present,
I don't
present.
recall seeing any.
No, everybody was present for all three meetings.
That is correct.
All right, my question, Lynn, when we go through these license renewals, these will be done with one vote?
Yeah, so I'll let you know which ones are missing things. So when I finish, you can just make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Okay.
And then you can make a motion
Because
to
I'm gonna,
approve those licenses subject to the documents being
Okay.
submitted. How's that sound?
okay, because I will be recusing myself from item N, 1 and 2, so that'll be a separate vote.
True.
If you want to go through and let us know.
Okay. So on the billowing licenses renewals, everybody is all set except for Wolf Rock, who owes us a sales tax permit. Junkyard licenses renewals were all set. And when I say all set, I mean we received everything we're supposed to, they've gotten all the inspections, they're supposed to have passed all that. So everything that they were required to do to be renewed is good, except for what I'm telling you we don't have. So dealer and junk license, Exeter Scrap Metal's all set, Donna Raymond did not submit an application. And you do have something from Ron on that. Second-hand dealer's license, those are all good. Recycling license, good. Trailer park license, Mobile Village is good. Split Rock is good except for, what we've been discussing. Ronald Shattuck did not submit an application.
Okay, so on that split rock, we should pull that one out and do a separate vote? 'cause
Yeah,
there's
that one you
agreements.
can do
Okay.
separate if you
We're
want.
gonna take that one out, L2 is gonna go out for a separate vote.
Mhm.
And may I ask about that I-2, where you said Donna Raymond did not submit?
So we're gonna take that one
Let's
completely
have
out?
removed as well. Okay.
Yep, and then, G2 is for the sales permit.
I'm sorry, say that again?
G2 for the sales permit.
Wolf Rock.
Wolf
Pull
Rock,
that one out.
Oh,
Country Kitchen. So you're removing that one. You're removing I2 for no application. And we can follow up with her and see what happened there. And we did follow up, she hasn't responded, so we'll try again. See if she's planning on submitting. Then, secondhand was all set, recycling license all set. Trailer park, Mobile Village all set, Split Rock, you'll remove. Ronald Shattuck, you'll remove. Rubbish, we're all set, except for Waste Management, who did not submit an application. Number 8. Letter N, firearm dealers, those are all set. Dan's recusing himself under that, so that'll have to be a separate vote. Private detective, all set. Dance licenses, all set.
And we had a dance license from Sophie's also, that was,
Good? Yeah.
I don't know if that really matters in the,
We just, I guess we didn't get it on the agenda, but
okay.
we had it. So we can add it. Make a motion to add it.
I make a motion to add Sophie's to
Brew house to
the
the
brew house,
dance.
Sophie's Brew House to the agenda
Dance
of
license
Dance
renewal.
license.
Second.
section, was way back,
P, P, right, P.
okay, whatever it is.
That's all right, we got it right.
Section, number 6, P,
It would be
64.
P4.
Second.
Now, if you want to make a motion to accept the consent agenda. as
All in favor?
amended, Then make your motion.
Then, all in favor of adding Sophie's?
Aye.
So now we need to do a vote.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second,
Any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so the next one, the first one will be The first one will be Wolf Rock Country Kitchen. I think that's missing his sales tax,
Yep.
which you should have had.
Well, I'll move it that we
Usually the
approve
first
that.
week of July, they send them out.
I move that we approve that, subject to submission of the sales tax requirement.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The next one is I2, dealer and junk license renewal. Donna F. Raymond applicant did not submit a renewal. I guess we need to go to not renew it. I make a motion to not renew, there was no application filed.
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next one is L2 Split Rock Mobile Home Park. You want to explain that one, Jim? The emails that have been flying
Yeah,
around?
have you seen, there were a couple of communications from the electrical inspector. There were also some communications that had come in over the last month from Split Rock through their attorney about progress that was being made. They also indicated they weren't gonna be able to make a deadline, but asked for some consideration on that. And today, the latest I saw was something going with Lynn indicating that poles were on site, that there was going to be, they anticipated getting the work done very quickly and reporting back. And I believe Mr. Bogosian for Split Rock asked one of two things, either make the approve the license renewal with conditions that they complete the pole placement, or to continue it another month, either one, so that you could have all the facts in front of you at that time, and that they can muster facts as well and report back. So that's the most I know about it,
Deja vu, we're right back where we were last year at this time with the same issues.
except that you've got poles on site, you got people that are coming, you got different things.
I would make the motion to extend his application for 1 month.
I agree with that.
Second.
Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
See if he pulls through. L3, Ronald Chaddick, applicant, no renewal was received, so I guess we'll make a motion to not renew it due to no renewal being received.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
M8, Waste Management in Rhode Island. Same thing, there was no license renewal submitted to the towns, so make a motion to not renew their rubbish removal license.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And 1 and 2, I will now recuse myself and hand it over to the vice president. So,
Okay. I make a motion to approve N1 and 2 Chandry Farm firearms dealers license renewals, and also Firearms Unlimited LLC firearms dealers license renewals.
Second it.
Just a quick discussion, why is there a different name, but are you connected to the other?
DBA. Do you have a copy of the federal license there in that packet?
I didn't see it.
It's under Chandler Farm
Right, but
LLC.
this one, Firearms Unlimited, you have that one as well, you recused yourself
Oh,
from that.
yeah, because years ago, when I went to the Ethics Commission, when they came into business, because there was,
Because there were two of you.
they told me if it was a restaurant like Newport where there's 100 restaurants, it's no big
Okay.
deal.
But not
at the same
because you're
time,
connected,
Yeah.
just because you're just in the business.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
And is it only new guns or used guns or both?
Excuse
Do
me?
you have new guns or used guns or both?
Oh, and used,
Both.
yeah. Very few used.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Did you say no?
Mhm.
Okay, next up is O, private detective. No, we don't have to do that.
Three
I'm
yeses.
sorry, P.
3 yes and 1 no.
3 yes, 1 no, and 1 recused.
One abstention or recused.
Okay, next up is P, dance license renewals. There was a motion to add Sophie's Brew House. They did have the application in one. Sophie's?
Yeah, we have it.
So the, you want to go through? If you don't need to,
We voted to add it to the agenda, so then we need to vote to approve just Sophie. The other ones have already been approved. Yeah.
Was the application complete for her?
yes.
Did you just give us that tonight?
No,
Oh,
it was equal to the other thing.
okay.
So we need a motion to approve the dance license renewal for Sophie's Brew House.
You wanna do all four at once, or?
We already did the other two.
Okay, so moved.
Second,
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, next up, number 7, vacancies and appointments. A, Personnel Board,
Nothing.
continue closed. Number 2, Conservation Commission, 7 members needed, nothing. Okay, continue closed. B, resignations, Scott Small, Public Works Worker. We need a motion to accept his,
so moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
C, let's see, while we're on
Was
that
that,
one. We
was that
need to,
posted?
No.
need a motion to post for a Public Works Worker.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item C, appointments. Juvenile Hearing Board, alternate members, 2 needed for 3-year terms, beginning date of appointment. Do we get another one on that?
We need, 2 for alternates,
Yeah.
but we have a full board.
Okay.
But, we haven't received anything on that, and we haven't received anything on the, rural land trust.
We'll continue to post that.
Mhm.
Number 2,
Can I
excellent.
ask a question real quick?
Real quick.
Real quick. If you sit on one of these boards, does that exclude you from doing other town business or positions?
I think just council,
Only if you're elected, I believe.
yeah.
Yes. Yes, okay. Okay, number 2, Exeter Rural Land Preservation Trust Committee member, 1 needed to fill unexpired term ending April 1st, 2023.
No, nothing, yeah.
Okay, continue to post. C, Animal Control Officer. Somewhere we had in this.
Yeah, we have a letter of recommendation from our interim director, Rob Shanty.
Just came in, right?
Yeah, for discussion, I move that we appoint Jensen Ellerman
Second.
to that position. Discussion, we have a letter dated November 4th from Mr. Shapley. He says, after careful review of the applicant's resume, it's an excellent fit. Jensen Ellerman's been a volunteer at the shelter and recently added as a floater. Jensen has animal handling experience and made immense improvement to the animal control division of the Exeter Public Works Department. Thus, he recommends Jensen Ellerman for the position.
I'll also add that his cover letter and his resume is done so professional and impressive.
He lives close by, too. Lives right over the line in North Kingstown, so that's a very good fit.
Last name rings a bell with me.
It reminds me of Edelman. It's not. I asked, is only one position available at the animal shelter? Because we've got him calling it an officer, and we've got some other apps for just the part.
Attendant. That's because, I had advertised it as attendant, it was supposed to be advertised as an officer.
Okay.
Because we were supposed to make this appointment last month. And, so we notified those people and they wanted to apply for the
So
officer.
they would have to reapply.
And they did, they let us know that they were considered along with Mr. Ellen's. Yep.
Cal, you get a motion?
I did.
It was seconded, I believe.
Mhm.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, finance clerk. Just the one?
There were
Two?
two received, and they were given to Maria and Ken, tax collector and tax
For
contractor.
interviews and wait for, we haven't heard back yet,
Haven't heard back from them.
so we'll keep that on for the next meeting, whoever's here.
Dan, before you leave item
Yeah.
C, can I just comment that having a member of the audience ask a question, thank you, about serving on a committee,
My pleasure.
we need, whatever, so thanks for your interest, whatever it might be. Think about it. Please,
Absolutely.
thank you.
So it's okay for us to ask questions? No.
I didn't, what was that remark?
Technically, not during the meeting.
And when you,
Oh, well,
so when you do discussion, it's just between you guys?
Yes.
Unless you're on the list or whatever. you know.
I just had a question about an animal guy, what his professional certifications were.
On the animal control officer?
The animal control officer.
It's quite a bit. I have his resume here. I think I can share it. I'm not sure if I can share it with you.
Well, it becomes public now.
Yeah, it's public.
Yeah.
You can see the resume if you want to have it right here.
But ordinarily, we don't engage back and forth.
I understand,
It's
and
just,
I know why.
well,
We'd be here all
because
night.
if there were 40 people, there
Yeah,
could be
exactly.
questions all night long. So that's why thank you.
Okay, item number 8, public hearings. I need a motion to open the public hearing,
So moved.
acting as
Second.
the Exeter Liquor License Board.
We have a motion and a second already.
All in favor?
Aye.
I guess you're up, Lynn.
Okay, so everybody has submitted everything they need to and passed all inspections. We have to get the letter of good standings clearance from the Secretary of State. Some of them have not, we haven't gotten them from them yet. This isn't the applicant's fault, we have to wait for them to process each application. So there's several that we don't have that on, the rest of them are okay. So Wolf Rock, we have not received that letter. Yagu Bakes, we haven't received that letter. Exeter Country Club, Cornerstone Pub, Homestead Restaurant, Town Pizza, Sophie's, and Little Country Pizza. We do expect them. They have till the end of the month to do it. The state does, and we get them piecemeal. Once they approve it, they send us an email.
Can we prove it contingent upon receiving?
I would just like to comment too for the record that I asked Lynn about the inspections that are done routinely, and she assures us, and I think for the record, I'd like the record to show that appropriate inspections were done. Lynn, if you'd elaborate.
The building inspectors, electric, building, electric, mechanical if necessary. Hal Morgan, the zoning, fire marshal, and also we get the clearance from tax assessor and tax collector.
And town sergeant.
And the town sergeant, yes, on all the license renewals. All the license renewals. We have that, we have all their reports, so it's all.
I asked that to be noted in the record because years ago, that wasn't necessarily always the case, so to you, Madam Clerk, appreciate you following up. And once again, it should be noted, these licenses are renewed now, but they are good to the end of November. And years ago, they were addressed at the December council meeting, which meant some of them
Were
went
expired.
for days in a sort of expiration mode. So this is
Yes,
speeded up the
They have the
process.
month now to submit what we don't have, and we will be on the cases for it, to make sure that they don't have a lapse.
Well, I appreciate it, and I think the public, I think the council should know, it wasn't always like this. So, thank you.
Welcome, thank you.
Okay, so we had a motion.
And we had a second, I believe, right away.
We didn't have the motion.
Didn't have the motion?
No, we
Okay.
had,
Do you do it in the public hearing or out of the public hearing?
you gotta close,
Close the public hearing.
but you have the liquor
Okay.
license cap too, and it stays at 13.
Okay.
So move we close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Go ahead, Cal, you're on a roll.
No, I move the licenses be approved, subject to submission of missing documentation.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, liquor license cap currently at 13.
I move it be left at 13.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Has there been any requests for more from any businesses in town?
We can only have so many, and it's based on population. So if somebody else comes along, I'll have to look at the law.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, number 9.
Excuse me, I move that we adjourn as the Board of Liquor Licensing.
So,
Actually, we
second.
kind of have been doing that function for the last few minutes, but we'll take care of it.
All in favor?
We
Aye.
make
Aye.
it.
All right, number 9, new business, presentation and acceptance of audit reports for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2022.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Jeff Wadovic with Wadovic and Company. I'm with the audit firm. So these are my staff guys are here. I think everybody has. So our group has completed the financial statement audit as we've done over the past few years. Some of these you know us as we've been in before with Maria here. And we do have a full working copy of the financial statements ready to go. They are due by December 31st of this year, as always. There is one small piece that will take a little bit of time, and that's a document from the state of Rhode Island. And what Mike and Frank from our office has done is put together a summary sheet to kind of walk you through a little bit more of what we do in the financial statement. So why don't you go ahead, Mike, and walk me through this.
So as Jeff said, you know, the document is,
Excuse me, Mike. This is Mike Olson and Frank Napoli, so.
so the document's 70 pages. We try to condense it down for you guys. You know, I know it's election night, so no one wants to be here later than they have to be. So if we go to page 1, this is our independent auditor's report. It's our standard issued report on the town's financial statements. They've rearranged how the report is looked due to some new standards, which is nice because now the most important paragraphs are right in the front here under the opinion. You know, when doing our audit, the town received what they call a clean or unmodified opinion, meaning that there were no issues when we did our audit, and that the financial statements as a whole had no material misstatements or any other issues. So again, I'm not going to go through the whole independent auditor's report. Most of the language has stayed the same. Again, it was more just restructuring of the actual format. So as we come into the balance sheet here, I'm just going to focus on the general fund for tonight. You know, we do show the landfill disclosure fund, and your non-major other funds are special revenue, capital projects. You do have a permanent fund for the cemetery. So as of June 30, 2022, the town had cash and cash equivalents of roughly $1.1 million. There were some property tax receivables outstanding of $209,000. There's some small intercompany balance that was due from some of your special revenue funds of $39,000. The tax title property receivable is $14,000, and that gives you a total assets of $4.4 million. So we come into the liability section. There was some accounts payable and accrued expense items of about $246,000. There's some intercompany payables due to your special revenue funds because they don't hold cash accounts. The general fund holds all their cash of roughly $1.5 million. There's a small amount due to an agency fund of $124,000, and then you have some other liabilities of about $14,000. As we turn the page here, we come into what they call your unavailable revenue for property taxes or your deferred revenues. This is the amount of taxes that have been billed but not collected at the end of the year, so that was about $146,000. And that brings us into our fund balance here, where your total general fund balance is about 2.4 million. That's broken down into your committed, assigned, and unassigned. The unassigned amount is roughly 6% of your current year collections. We anticipate that to be around 10. It's down a little bit this year because there was a large amount that was assigned or committed for the 22-23 budget. It was about $500,000 in terms of, the town needing money for the increase in the school bill primarily, but some other operating items. Which then gets you your total liabilities and fund balance of 4.4. So as we turn the page here, we have your statement of revenues. Ultimately, the total revenues for the town was about 16.7 million. You can see your property taxes are your largest revenue stream with 14.7. That's about 87% of the total revenues collected. There are some intergovernmental revenues in terms of stuff you get from the state of about 1.3, and your departmental revenues are about $500,000. So those are some of the highlight points for your revenues. If we turn the page here, we'll have your statement of expenditures. The town's total expenses for the year were a little over 16 million. Again, education is your largest expense, which represents about 80% at about $13 million. Your other two larger are your general government and your public works at just about $1.8 million and $1 million. Public works speaks for itself. Your general government is overall the town, all those departments. So as we turn the page here, the overall change for the year was a deficit of 37,000, which is slightly deceiving because you do have a large increase in your other non-governmental. You guys did get American Recovery money, about 900,000. So between everything that the town got, there was about an $860,000 increase in the fund balance.
896,000 is dedicated to other funds, however.
So the American Rescue, because we put it in a separate fund, doesn't get commingled with the general fund. But he's saying if we recognized it in the general fund, then that 36,000 would be erased, and that would obviously be an increase. But to keep it clean and simple, so that we can identify all the income, all the expenses that are from American Rescue, and we put in a separate account, a separate fund, earning interest going to be spent on those projects so that it does not get mixed up at all with anything operating expenses from the general fund.
And just so you know, that's a federal requirement because those are federal funds. The federal government requires you guys to track your expenses separately in order so that if the town does need a single audit and it sees the threshold, when we come in to do our compliance audit, we can make sure the expenses match the revenue streams.
Single audit is an audit above and beyond this. It's a separate audit, dedicated to federal funds.
And we really never met that threshold because we just unfortunately don't get that type of money on a normal basis, but we did this year. And so the 36,000, so we, even though it's a little dipping into the fund balance a little bit, we did in the budget put in about a $424,000 number there that we were anticipating that we could dip in. And most of the reason why that was erased and we didn't need it was because the town clerk's office went over budget with the income over $100,000 because of the sales and the recordings. And, so she went over budget, permits were over.
If you guys flip the page, you can see what Maria's talking about. There's the revenues and budget to the actual. So ultimately, your property taxes, you had some good collection rates this year. It was over budget by about 100,000. Your intergovernment revenues were actually under budget, but that's due to the motor vehicle phase out, which actually shorted the town about 143,000. The departmental revenues, as Maria said, were up, primarily due to Lynn's collections, which were about 100, I think it was 110, over budget.
Lynn's learning.
That's
from
right.
Maria.
Yeah, a lot of positive numbers. Overall, the revenues were.
Coming in and What's he gonna collect?
Right.
Littles on it.
Don't come in unless you bring money.
So overall, the revenues were about 218,000 over the budget. So the revenues had a positive variance.
Which really saved us.
Correct.
And there were some departmental budgets that were also under, which, so, you know, bring in more money or spend less, it's all good.
And just so the council knows, in the full financials on page 41 is a more detailed breakout of the revenues. So as we turn the page, we'll go to the expense side. Again, page 42 to 44 in the full financials have more detail. Ultimately, expenses were actually under budget by about 221,000. Most of that came from the general government side, which to Maria's point gets us to that $37,000 deficit on the next page. On the next page, we have the schedule of property tax receivables. Kind of just throw this in here so the council can see, you know, where the collections are for the year. Ultimately, on your $14.6 million assessment, for the current year, you guys collected 14.5, so I think it's about a 98% collection rate. So again, that's why your property tax revenue is up. The collection rate overall has been good for the year.
May I just stop you? I don't think that's typical of most communities, or at least it didn't used to be. Certainly wasn't typical here years ago.
I was gonna say, the last couple of years, you guys have been between probably 95 and 98% collection.
Yeah.
And-
It didn't used to be that.
And I don't think we touched upon this, but I saw it in there where, so we retired the library bond.
Oh, that's the next page.
Oh, sorry, next page.
Maria's just getting ahead of me.
This property tax page is not a required document, all the government general requires it, it's not part of general accepted accounting principles, but it does give you a good idea of where you guys stand on your receivables, what's outstanding, and your collection rates.
So, going on Maria's point here, if we flip to the last page, this is just a schedule of all the town's long-term debt. This year, as in 2020, when we did the financials, the library bond was paid off in full, it was the last year. And actually going into 22-23, the developmental bond will be fully repaid. So in theory, the town will have no debt. It does have some compensated absences it owes for sick and vacation, but overall, there's no physical debt or capital leases.
Which is very good.
Which I think is unusual, even though they say West Greenwich is not far behind us.
And that is our presentation.
I think the fact that you're here on November 7th, when years ago, it was always delayed and never finished. Well, you got, not your fault, this was years ago.
This was prior to us, yes.
Years ago, and it was just the fact that we didn't have the kind of staff we needed. I mean, the attention given, and now we do, and it's very much to Maria's credit. And I guess a little bit of Lynn, because apparently she's tried out a little bit.
If you look around the state for financial statement reporting, you guys are way ahead.
Well, that's what I'd like you to
I
say.
mean, I serve on an audit committee, which, on a bordering town, North Kingstown, and, that financial statement gets delivered literally on December 31st when it's due, and the council approves it sometime after that. Probably at least about 40% of the communities in Rhode Island are delayed beyond December 31st. So you guys are way up there. The biggest problem that we have now to be able to finalize this document is the state of Rhode Island and the
MTP.
MTP.
So we're working with Maria right now. We have to submit a document to the state on municipal finance for their approval, and they give us a schedule, about 4 pages worth of schedules that have to be inserted in here.
Yeah. And that's trying to get everyone within the state to basically look the same, which is ridiculous in my mind, because Block Island can't compete with Providence, and they go through the same stuff. And you guys are more on the Block Island, Jamestown time look than Providence or Cranston or Woonsocket. So, but they try to make us all fit in the same box, which is ridiculous. So it causes delay. But the bottom line is the document is done. The information will be submitted to the state, and then we're just in a holding pattern until they come back. And this is very typical. It happens every year.
And even though you approve it, if you approve it this evening, there's we're not gonna even send it to the Auditor General until mid-December, because we have to work on that in,
So there's still time for questions or, review.
yeah, so if you have any questions.
Yeah, again, we cannot submit it to the Auditor General's office until we get the comments back from the state of Rhode Island, which will not happen until mid-December. Even though we send it to them, I don't know, you guys could probably send stuff pretty soon, right?
Yeah, it'll be a couple weeks, we'll get stuff over to them. They normally take about 3 to 4 weeks to turn it around.
But again, back to the most important thing, we are here on November 7th with a set of financial statements completely audited, complete. These guys were working on adjustments with Maria, and that's a testament to, the council and Maria's office to put everything together.
And everybody, it's a team effort, believe me. They're good people. The department heads, they try really, really hard to keep the cost down.
She doesn't have to take the whip out that way.
The only other thing that was pointed out is, again, and we've discussed this, every year that I've come, and you guys know about it, but for some of the new faces on the council, that $13 million in education versus $14 million roughly that comes in on tax collections, as you can see, it's about 80%, it's a big, big number. And because of the retroactive adjustment that could be potentially seen based on the two communities and where the population is based on the student pupil count. The calculation is used in the other districts. I've looked at it many years ago. It is a reasonable calculation. It just really puts you guys in a tough position depending on what is happening in the housing market and where the students are coming from. And that's nothing new, but it's just to me, sitting on the council, basically 80% of your tax revenues you have no control over.
Used to be worse.
And the retroactive adjustment can be devastating. So that's when Mike was talking about roughly being, what did you say, 6% your unassigned
Yes.
balance. What you're really referring to is your unassigned balance is roughly $800,000. We compare that number to your property taxes to come up with a percentage. We prefer, or I shouldn't say we, the government finance board prefers it to be more around 10 to 12%. You're roughly at 6%, but you did move a bunch into the committed side, which means that it's basically been assigned. It has it's been assigned to something, and so it can't be used for unlimited spending. So when you do talk to your taxpayers, your accounting firms are saying that your unapplied surplus is probably a little low. And keep that in mind. When I say that, what I'm saying is low is $800,000 low, and you get a retroactive adjustment from the school district. You could be looking at $300,000 to $500,000 retroactive adjustment, which could wipe out your surplus. And when I'm talking about the $800,000, I'm talking about available surplus. So it's a cumulative surplus that is available in case you have a storm, or you have to appropriate some money for some reason to spend it in the town for something that was unforeseen, or like you did last year, you reappropriated $500,000 of your fund balance to be spent in this current year to basically kind of smooth out the peaks and valleys of your property taxes, because that's the whole reason why you take that surplus and you reappropriate it to prevent your property taxes from going something like that.
And that balance sheet number is as of 6/30, so if the town doesn't need the whole $500,000, it goes back to unassigned. It doesn't just stay there. That's, you guys have as the council, the right to, move it based on your vote. So, if next year you say, going back to, I think it's been about 200,000 for the last 4 or 5 years prior, you go back, it goes back to unassigned, as long as it hasn't been, unrestricted,
That's what
as
we
long
like
as it
to
hasn't
do.
been used.
We like to see that. The only reason it was so high was because of what happened with the motor vehicles at the last minute, and the state saying, you can't bill out these vehicles, we're only gonna give you X, there's a cap. And at budget time, we were a little over that cap, so we had to reduce it and backpedal, and we decided to take it out of fund balance, that's why it's so high. Otherwise, 200, 250 is a comfortable place, because then between the savings and extra money, which we seem to be bringing in because we're
You're talking about
conservative.
reappropriate.
For next year, yeah.
So you reappropriated 500 and change versus 250,000, so you doubled. And when I'm saying reappropriating, what I'm meaning is that you basically budgeted at a deficit. Your expenses exceeded your revenues. And the way you made your budget balance is you said, well, I'm gonna take this surplus money that's sitting over here, that we've accumulated over time, and I'm gonna use that, like think of it as a savings account. You dipped into your savings account to cover your expenditures. So you just have to be careful about that because, again, 80% of your expenditures are really out of your control. So you wanna be cautious about how much you dip into it, and that's why I'm talking about the $800,000 being, only roughly 6% of your overall revenue. So if you had a catastrophe and you had to go out and raise money, you'd have to do a surplus tax, a supplemental tax roll, and, nobody wants to do that. So you just want to be cautious about how much you have. Taxpayers may look at it and say $800,000 is a big number, but it's really not a big number in the grand scheme of things for the town.
And believe me, when Maria works with the council, she does not want any excessive amounts added into this. She wants as little as possible.
And again, I'm not advocating to, for higher taxes, I'm just
No.
trying to advocate for
Responsible
fiscal management, that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, any questions from any of you?
I'm good. Anybody have any questions?
I don't think so.
And once again, you can look through all this stuff, you can look through the actual draft of the audit, that was sent on Friday. And, to all of you, and, any questions, just ask and,
Well, I'll move that the audit be approved as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Very well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work.
Thank you, Maria.
Excellent.
Okay, new business, item B, historic preservation, town signage and cleanup.
That was me, Dan.
Okay.
That was me. We through the Historical Association, there was some discussion, and I've always thought it would be nice to try to do something with the pound. And Pat was kind enough to do some research and found that it appears, the research shows that the pound is really on town property. It's not on any individual's property. It's all part of a state, and I didn't mean town, I meant state, along the state highway. So, at least that's a question answered. And I don't know really what the next steps are. I talked to Steve about this, and I think ultimately we can talk to Rob about a project, perhaps of doing some cleanup at some point. Obviously not a top priority, but something along the highway to retrieve that, what little historic stuff we have around. There's been interest in doing that, so I would say we should just move it forward and talk, and just take it, I can take it off the
It's in the state right
agenda.
away?
What place?
It's in the state right away there?
It's state, it's on state property.
shows right on the state highway map,
Yeah.
it's got copy.
Right, which Pat has dug up this
I think the
information,
biggest
so.
issue is the giant oak tree.
Well, I would never cut, no, that's just gonna have to stay, to keep the pound shaded, because, well, after all, the animals that are, no, the animals that are put in the pound need to be shaded from the sun, so. But it's, Rob's looking at me like, is he serious? To be continued,
Okay.
So is this going
to
on
be
the unfinished
continued.
business?
I beg your pardon?
Unfinished business?
I would say we could, or you could remove it, and Ken and Rob and I can be discussing, and put it back on if we need to.
This is something also you might want to take up with Bill, the planner, because as they're doing the comprehensive plan, they're looking at historical features in the town, and that can be pointed out as one.
Right. And I've already spoken to him about that. I showed it to him, and as we did a little bit of a tour. But unless the council has any other comments, I'd just like to see how it goes in the future. And I may or may not be around to discuss it, but it's something that's out there.
Okay. All right.
Unfinished business or removing it?
No, remove it, unless the council wants to leave it. I don't think it's necessary.
You guys used to be discussing it.
Yeah, if we need to come back to you, we
Okay.
would, or someone would. Ken will.
See you, Stan.
Yeah.
All right, next item, C, signage on major routes in town.
That was also made because, at that same meeting where the pound was discussed, there's always been questions about having signs, and I think of the one that's on Route 102, as you enter Gloucester, and it's a very nice, attractive entering Gloucester with the dates of the town. And someone suggested that one can do some research and see if those kinds of signs are available, but I didn't do it. We put it there to see, or it's on the agenda to see whether or not the council's interested at all in thinking about that, at various entrances of town, like 102, down near Boyle Hill, and out on 165, like maybe 4 places or something. But I don't know. I beg your pardon?
had the big long ones.
We have little ones, right? We have little green ones.
Just simply
Well,
walk.
no, you used to be, and it disappeared on 102, it's gone. It's been there for years, and I just noticed within the last month or two, it's not there.
The entering Exeter.
Yeah,
sign.
entering, right, it's
I don't
gone.
remember that when I moved here.
Yeah, well,
Down to Ryan or doing
Carrying my stuff.
where most of them end up.
We had a large, 2 or 3 large ones here. And one was down on 102, it was about the size of the table.
and
It was nice and decorative and all
and it
that.
just disappeared, someone took it
Yeah,
down.
there was one down on 3, and the other one maybe,
I don't remember those.
it was quite a while ago.
Well,
And I saw them somewhere afterwards, they get taken out, they were probably state property. No permission.
well, it's a thought.
So your thought is not just a entering Exeter sign, but a more elaborate sort of.
Well, sort of,
Maybe incorporated or something.
yeah, that's the Gloucester one, I can't remember, I should have taken a picture of it, but if you go up 102, it's just a really nice sign. Some of you may have seen it, it looks just nice.
Lots of towns have them,
I
like
know.
Richmond has one that's not so pretty, but it's like, welcome to Richmond.
But if that's something that, it's once again, as we don't know who's gonna be sitting there after tomorrow, so I would say,
Push
it
it.
could be put under unfinished business, and if another council says, what's this, and let's talk about it, or who wants a sign? Let's see what happens. So, any objection to putting it to unfinished business, council?
No.
No objection.
Okay. Next up, request for center line on New Road.
Yes, I was in the town hall voting, and a couple stopped me and said, have you gone to New Road? Like, it's so dangerous because the center line has worn off, especially at the intersection of Route 102. We've all seen it, cars kitty-cornered across the whole entrance, but when there was a line painted there and people could see it, they respected it, and stayed on their sides of the road.
A line ever being on New
So
Road.
they were wondering, like, and we know that we can't just, we have your painting of the lines on a certain schedule, the DPW does in general for roads in town. We didn't know if you could just paint part of it, or what you can.
I'm a huge
give
fan
your
of
2
the,
cents.
I'm a huge fan of the center lines. We're working in the roads all the time. And it slows people down, it makes them feel like they have less room, so it slows you down. I'm a huge fan. Last time we did it, we did several roads, including New Road. It was a double center, and it was a test for the first time that I know of. And they used a material that isn't the best, and it won't last a super long time. You can spend more money, but you can't just do one road, in my opinion. You'd have to go throughout the town, and then you gotta add stop lines. So there's more to it. I'm a huge fan for it, because I'm in those roads.
It was
All the
probably
time.
4 years ago, I think it was in the budget, it was like $16,000 or $19,000.
Right, I have,
It was for like a single line on most of the roads, we didn't do them all. We did them all.
If I may, I work with the DPW, but I cannot speak in
In a citizen capacity, I guess, because DPW is obviously, he's the boss, you know. I think it would be better if, you would, if one would focus on widening out the entrance to a new road. I know it's a lot more expensive, but if you put a line down, and then we're probably going to widen out the road at some point anyways, we'd have to move the line, have to pay double. You know, the danger is not necessarily the line, although that would help.
The road is, those
Yeah.
are two
Oh, we
lots.
know, yeah, we know, we
There's
plow
no way
that,
to open it up.
it's no fun.
There's problems everywhere, man, really, leaving the transfer station's huge, dangerous place. We could talk about things like that all night.
Is there
But back to the center lines.
Then
Is
there's
there
the external
anything you
regs.
can do for that intersection, like temporarily, or just to delineate it for
Just-
you
just-
guys and the
Just
residents?
up the entrance?
Yeah,
Just for safety, like she's saying, just at the end of the road, the line at the end of the road.
yeah,
Well,
50 feet, 100 feet of,
I mean, we painted a crosswalk right where Wobble School is, so we can,
yeah, like
the
a,
council tells me that that's what they want, that's what we'll do. But I
Personally,
just think it's gonna, excuse me,
no,
I just think it's gonna create, why we want it on our roads, so I think it should be a townwide thing. It just,
What started all this about 4 or 5 years ago was Liberty Road. And the state was doing Railroad Ave, which is a state road.
right?
And they went all the way down Liberty and painted it.
Oh, really?
The contractor thought it was a state road, that opened a can of worms.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, some
there's
people-
regs on how wide that road has to be before you put a line on it. There's state and federal regs.
There might be.
I know there is.
It's something to have to be put in the budget next year anyway, because you don't have anything.
Like I said, I'm a
We didn't have
huge
anything
fan
in
of
that
lines.
budget this year for line striping.
Right, you get a mirror. We have mirrors, we have those fish bubble mirrors. That's a quick fix.
yeah,
That's a
I
good
think
idea.
that
That
could.
might help.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they can see people
I
coming
think there
in
might have
both
always,
directions.
I think there might have been one there
Yeah.
at one point.
In fact, there was an accident right there at 4
I was
o'clock
actually there
today.
to help
Today?
traffic, yeah, keep
4
directing
o'clock,
traffic.
4 o'clock,
Yeah.
last year to 10 Rod Road, New Road.
Yeah.
Coming out of there.
Back on track, let's go, let's go. All you can do is go down there with a spray can and a cart, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could put something there, if that's.
You need to borrow one of the little carts, I got one.
Right, okay.
I think something is better than nothing, just so there's a reference.
Mhm. I agree. It's very dangerous, especially with a plow coming out of there,
Mhm.
and we know nobody does the speed limits here. It's just don't.
The whole intersection is terrible, but the problem is you have private owners on it, there's no way to widen it.
Right,
I know coming out of the truck, you can't even see what's coming.
very dangerous.
That's where the mirror comes in.
Route 3.
Do you
Mirror
have-
could be an
If
option.
you have a mirror,
do
you
you
guys.
have some mirrors that someone might be able to get one or some, or?
I don't think we have any.
Yeah, to purchase it, or imagine.
I don't know where you,
There was one out on Mount Town that's in pieces now from somebody, you know that sharp curve there? Somebody had one out there at one point, and it's just
Some
remnants
mirror.
of it's there.
Yeah, there's one on Summit Road too.
Summit,
Yeah, but they keep smashing them.
oh, you're right, Summit coming in off of 165 area again.
A motion to paint the line.
I don't know, do we need a motion to do that?
It's your thing.
I move to direct the DPW to paint a line on New Road. What do we want, 100 feet, 50 feet,
Let's put it down the middle, 75.
75
okay.
feet from the intersection of 102
Mhm.
up?
That's where you stop.
Yeah.
well, I'll second for
Second.
discussion. And I would just say, it's a good idea, but let's ask Rob and his crew to do some mitigation, you know, the line, if you can do something with a line or a mirror or whatever,
Or both.
whatever you might be able to do to
Yeah.
mitigate, you know, try it, give it a try.
How about if I find some numbers on a mirror and see where we can go from that? In the meantime, get some paint down.
With the line.
Is it possible
Okay.
for us to trim back
in-
those
Sorry?
hedges? Is it possible for us to trim back those hedges? Would we be able to do that?
Not
Would
with
that be
private
considered?
property.
Well, I don't know how far out the.
Yeah, what about
But then
it
it would be
install?
state out there, right?
There's probably any room to install a mirror unless you put it
It'd
on
have to be a-
somebody's private property.
Well, doesn't the state
Is
own
there-
a certain portion of the other side of the road?
There is
That's
a-
where you would put it, right?
Okay,
And you would angle it
whatever.
so that our person coming out can see.
We have to get permission from the state before we hang a mirror on their property.
Yes.
Yeah, but if it's the end of the town road, it would be ours, right?
Yeah, but you hang it across the street, right?
How about if I check into it and we'll start with the
Yeah.
paint that we know we can do?
Good.
Also, eliminate mirrors
that are indestructible. That
Nothing's indestructible.
Well, that's true.
We had a motion, we have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Second?
Okay. Okay, E, request for new marquee sign to be placed on clerk's office lawn.
This is me again, and I know we've talked about this and discussed it before, but the planner and Jessica, our social services director, both came to me one day and were like, we need a sign, we'll be responsible for changing the letters. And I'm like, we already went through this and we couldn't find a spot. Like, we all, I think, agreed that this was a good idea to get, notice out to people, but we couldn't find a spot for it. And then I came across, and Bill, the planner, came, like, we can raise the clerk sign up a little bit and put letters that Bill and Jessica will be responsible for changing the sign. So Lynn and Patty and nobody downstairs needs to touch it unless they want to.
Okay. Ken, did you still have that picture that I sent you on your phone?
It's somewhere on there, but when I passed out the packet during discussion, there were examples of the different LED signs. As you see, the next agenda item is for purchase of two of them,
Or
four of them. So we have sign issues, it seems like. We have the funding, just gotta determine where the signs will go, that we can use. And if you remember, if you recall in the packet, I put in there a discussion about the zoning ordinance.
yes.
About signages and what
Sizes and stuff.
sizes and illumination.
Like, and ideally, it would be an electronic sign, but electronic signs were not zoned for that, so we'd have to change the zoning ordinances.
Well, the one that I sent him a picture of is probably on my phone still, and I showed it to Lynn like 2 months ago. Believe it or not, it's at the town hall in Vermont where I'm at, and I'm driving by, and I'm looking at this thing. It's run by Wi-Fi. They do it from inside, and theirs is like this wide. This is all different technology, but they sit right inside, right in the computer, they can control it, And
I'm
we-
all for a sign like that, but we have to
We don't know,
change it.
we didn't have anything in the budget, but
Yeah.
when I saw that, and I've seen bigger ones around here.
Yeah, we don't necessarily wanna change the zoning, because they would open that up to everyone being able to do that.
Well,
I don't know if we want a neon sign.
when you look at the zoning, the ordinance in the zoning is from the late 70s. Remember the 4x8 signs with the arrow and the flashing lights? That's what it was aimed at. It's antiquated.
And there can be electronic signs that are not obnoxious, like if this sign, I'm gonna tell you one that's obnoxious just because of the size of it, but the Preserve in Richmond.
That's huge, yeah.
That's
what I mean.
gigantic, but it's not like a neon sign like you're saying, when you're
Yeah.
driving down the road, it looks like, oh, there's a picture, or there are words, it's not hitting you in the face. So it can be done,
Well, like this one, I sent him the picture, it's probably still in my file. It may be 2 foot high, and it's like 6 foot long. And I pulled it, when I saw it, I'm like, the perfect.
yeah, like it could fit underneath
It would,
the,
you would have to redo
Yeah.
the whole
yes,
post and
but
everything.
it could
But
be
what
something.
caught my eye, sitting on the end, it's got the 2 antennas, they do it from inside the building, it's controlled inside. Something like that, you get the kids at night rearranging the letters.
Yes.
So,
I just have to say one thing, we need to be careful of placement because of widow suites,
site
because
plan
we're on a
issues.
hill.
Well, that's the reason why
That's
we
why
nixed
ours
it.
is low.
We nixed the whole idea
Vision.
6 months
Ours
ago
is low.
because of that reason. We're afraid
Vision.
of accidents, of distraction with drivers.
I'm not against it, I'm just saying when we get
I'm not
one, we
against
have
it
to
either.
consider, it might have
Yeah.
to be Push
But
Dave's.
there was definitely concern in the room that that would be a distraction, and that's why
Yeah, we'd have
that's
to
why
go closer
we
to
tabled the idea. That was the only reason that I can remember.
Well,
Because I was for that too. I think I brought it up and you brought it up independently.
Yep.
Well, that was before we discussed it with the ARPA money to get the technology kind of signs. We were just looking at a wooden sign that wouldn't be lit and it would make it kind of big, and that would block out the whole area. The signs now are so compact and crystal clear. But once again, we had the town hall discussion around.
I was just gonna say, when we move the town hall, use Ace's idea and build a town hall over here or over there. We'll need a sign over here. But that's a different story for a different day.
Okay, well, why don't we leave this on there on old business for next month, because the next item is where we are discussing request for American Rescue Plan funds for mobile digital message boards. We can probably figure something out between the two. Yeah.
I think that was
'Cause-
Steve's plan, wasn't it, that you guys needed two, we may as well get four, and then the other two could be used when needed?
Yeah.
Wasn't that Steve told me that?
In case of emergencies and there's road, storms, road closures.
Or we're having an event or
Where-
something?
The signs we're discussing and that I put in
Here's
here,
on the tires, trailer stolen, I know what
They're
you're looking at.
right, those are more, like caution and safety wise, not looking beautiful, but informative. So that's what's real important, and we approved it over the summer. We did William Reynolds Road and trips and with the chip, and we not only announced that we were gonna be working there in the, coming weeks, it told what we were doing when, like the dates. and
Yes.
was nice, and then once the day of, we changed it quickly to oil and, so, the informative part of it was the most important part for us. And also then excuse me, and also if, say if you had like, I heard that like the rates are going up at the dump. You put one right there and say, hey, October 1st is going up. I think Sean and, the attendants over there did a lot of that legwork themselves, and I heard comments from the staff at the town hall saying how helpful that was, because it took a lot less of the questioning when it came time. So information, we're
Yeah.
having, a luncheon out here, or something, some town event like you see in other towns
Well,
down
I
the
saw
road.
one in Richmond that said,
Yes.
vote today, like
Vote
with an
today,
arrow
and-
pointing at the town hall.
Just say if we have two things going on at once, a pretty big town, even though we're a small town, we're big, you got one thing happening over there, some construction, and then one, something that's a festival or something that we're trying to announce, it's information. Vote here, come to town council meetings, fill up these rooms,
That would be nice.
information and safety is more what I'm looking at for signs. They could be pretty and stuff, but I don't think that would get across what I'm trying to get across. Safety, because my guys and myself, us, we're a team, we're out there, and it's,
Dangerous.
these people are flying. So it's always, the first thing in my mind is our safety. So that would help it.
Given the fact that emergencies can ensue, and we already know for weather or some pandemic issues or whatever,
Exactly.
it seems to me that it's a worthwhile expense. And my question is simply, do we think that the ARPA funds can be used for this kind of an expense? Because if they can, then this seems like the ideal opportunity to spend those funds. What you describe as the temporary placement
Mhm.
of something with
We move them in
information
an hour,
about
we
when
can
the,
set up.
when the
breaking
transfer
down.
station stickers,
I'm sorry?
generators?
No, they're solar.
solar.
Yes.
I mean, just giving people that use the transfer station information, stickers must be acquired by September 30th or whatever at town hall or something, and have it up for a couple of months. Makes sense. It helps you and it helps everybody. What, please?
I just had something that, the discussion about signage with the ARPA money came from the discussion of the town hall.
Right.
And then, with the requirements of the grant that it met, the notification, the public concerns and considerations that we had, for the other user, split it between, when it's not in use, get the trailer ones, when it's, maybe there could be a burner one. I think it needs a lot of discussion, because the amount of money being requested is pretty much what was budgeted in the grant.
How much money is this? How much is being
Was it
requested?
50,
It's right on 59 change, 60,000.
about 60,000?
Oh, in this document
It's
here.
right, yeah. it's
That's
in the
about
section.
4 of them.
60,000.
Before,
Before.
So you've been renting the other ones?
we rent them.
What do they cost today?
I could get that answer for you, I don't know it offhand.
But it seems to me like it's worth
My question-
pursuing,
Oh, yes.
isn't it?
What does
I
the
think
digital
we-
signs
we
cost?
Put a line, wasn't there a
There was
line
line
item?
In the budget.
Yeah, specifically for signs.
Yeah, this was set aside.
Yeah, so I think this is a no-brainer.
Set aside and Miranda approval on all the projects that.
Yeah.
Right, whatever was approved at the financial town meeting, I sent it to Office of Pandemic Recovery just to see, this is what was approved, do you see anything that's out of line? And
How
it
much
is-
did we allow for the signs?
I never, my son,
But that's a flexible number anyway, right?
Depends on size, what kind of.
Anticipate, we could be spending something like this amount for what we see as a need.
for town hall.
I mean, I think also having you folks take a look at that whole widow suites and coming out of the town hall issue with visibility, because that is a difficult place.
Recently, we just, for the planning board, put up those banners that are
I
out
was gonna
front.
ask you if that's
We took
been,
all that in consideration, I personally stood way down
you
street,
did,
knowing what I would need for driving a vehicle from
That's
all
gonna ask.
angles, and the way that's placed, you can see it. The only problem is it's blocking that schoolhouse, which
Well.
is, to me, it's a historical thing. You want a big lighted sign in front of that schoolhouse, not my taste, but
no, it's not mine either.
the planning board,
But
the
practical.
information's out there, and so
Right.
hopefully they're getting,
Practic-
that's the point they're trying to get their information out there, so it's working.
It's more important to get information out, really.
I like the sign that Olivia showed with the, was it a church or something with the letters? That's tasteful.
Can I make a
These are
suggestion
two
to try to
different things.
Go right ahead, man.
move things along? Why don't we have Rob and his men do some investigating for us, look at some things and come back to the next meeting and suggest some things before we do a request, because we could go on, and if we have something that we're looking at that they're suggesting.
Could I add to that?
Yep.
I'd like to sit down with Ken and discuss, maybe we can do 2 signs in one of his, or something, to,
Combination
split
of
it up,
signs.
because I think it would all be valuable, and over this summer, we used 2, and we moved them around a little bit more, so our guys just did more legwork, but we got the job done.
So
One wouldn't work, because it's only one-ended, and no
Yeah.
job's one-ended, unless it is like, I don't know, dead-end road maybe, I don't know. But
Yeah, Mr. President, I would suggest moving this to unfinished business, let Rob and Ken sit down and do some investigating, do some research, see
I
what.
agree with you.
like he suggested, split it, I mean, make it work for the town,
2 and 2, something like that.
something like that.
We're gonna move this to unfinished business next month?
Yeah.
Okay.
50,000,
was what was
yeah,
the benchmark for.
so that's
Next
not
item.
that far off.
Do we have to vote or no?
You gonna vote on that?
No,
No. Okay. G, Town of Exeter policy number 4.01, internet and electronic mail.
All right, I think Lynn sent, did you copy something? That's what me and had one.
no, you just sent that to you, me and James, so we get to council yet.
James sent, there was discussion last week about, because of the decision council made to go forward with emails for municipal volunteer. I sent him the policy and asked for his comments, and we received the comments this morning, but I was able to get the draft policy, and I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Now, how is that relating to what we
More than
have?
update.
This will be, what you're giving us is a potential update?
It was dated a summary memo on the front.
Yep.
Very basic.
Right.
You go.
Yeah, I have one copy.
Keep going. So the changes 100% reflect what was put in place. And you just see on the first 2 pages, the summary memo, those are the changes, those are included inside the policy itself. Straightforward.
You're taking all this is all eliminated on page 2.
That whole section is being removed and
Okay.
being replaced with that bottom paragraph on the first page.
Okay.
And we read all this other stuff, this is the same, from here on, it's the same one that you guys gave us a week or so ago.
Yeah, that's the,
Oh, no, this is
that's the current.
Oh, okay, so it's amended
Yeah.
with what you did, okay.
So if you approve it, it'll just be amended with the language that's,
Okay.
there's already, you can see the strike through.
Yeah, it looks good.
Motion approved.
Second, any discussion?
Yeah, thanks again for working on it. Thank
All
you,
in
Ken.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Ken. So this means that, starting at the next elected town council and other boards, that they'll be issued a town email, suffix, email account, and they would have to use exclusively, for everybody listening, that email, not our own personal accounts all the time. So it's archived, and if there's any investigation or anything, it's there to be reviewed.
Okay, next, item H, Washington County Regional Planning Council, Town Council participation and representation.
Well, I asked that that be placed on the agenda because obviously some attention needs to be paid to the fact that, and Mr. Davis continues to reference my delinquency, my criminality, if you will, for an organization that has not been meeting. We were one of the 8 communities that participated, and I don't mean to go over the history again. The council, neither I nor any prior council had anything to do with establishing it, but others prior to my accepting or volunteering to represent the town, others had participated, and the intent was of the group to have some intercommunity discussion. Planners met from time to time. Some of the issues were, most of the issues were really not very germane to Exeter at all, and there was a lot of waterfront discussion, and I used to say to them, we only have Blue Lake as our only waterfront, but they were really talking about the, Narragansett Bay and stuff. But one of the focuses I remember of considerable discussion was shared services. And some of you might remember that there was a time when, from the state level down, there was concern about communities could be saving money by sharing services. A fellow from Richmond continually pushed to have a dispatch, sort of a multi-community dispatch center, so that each community didn't have to pay or hire a dispatch. I mean, that didn't come to fruition because the nuts and bolts of orchestrating that kind of thing never really happened. There were shared services, especially amongst highway departments. And it was interesting, because Mr. Davis mentioned paving done in Narragansett. I had talked to Steve about that. He told me that brine, they were producing some brine. I don't know, Rob, if you know anything about that, but Narragansett was producing some brine that Exeter was using. It was like a shared kind of a situation.
We're
Is
heading in that
true?
direction, we're still heading in that direction, we're not quite there yet.
Okay, well, I mean, that was the kind of discussion that ensued, but as time went on, council people kept changing. I seem to be the one that kept getting reelected, as you know. Obviously, Mr. Davis hopes that that won't happen tomorrow, but whatever happens, happens. Anyway, the whole issue about a report about, and he mentioned the address of where the executive director lived on Great Island. And the same report indicates that we all lived at the same address. Can I clarify once more for you? I did not live there, I do not live there. And I think Mr. Davis knows that, yet he continues to want to come each month and indicate some foul play. So here's my point, the organization, if you call it that, has not met for several years. Nevertheless, unless we disassociate ourselves from that organization, it remains something that is potentially viable, and it's not. So I would ask that one of you move to remove Exeter's participation from the Washington County Regional. I've discussed this with the Ethics Commission, because I don't know how else we get out of this organization, and I'm gonna ask Jim, if you do that, then I'll ask Jim for a little assistance with the Secretary of State's office. You've heard Mr. Davis continue to say that I'm responsible as treasurer. I never handled money, I never have. I never had anything to do with PRISM. Oh, by the way, I will tell you that I forwarded the undeliverable letter that Mr. Davis just mentioned. I checked Google and got a current address, so I put it all in a new envelope, my letter, his letter, and I sent it on to the new PRISM headquarters. I think it's somewhere in Cranston. I know nothing about it, I was never on the board. It's a whole separate operation, and I never handled the money. So this continues to be an issue, and I'd appreciate if we could remove our participation.
Mr. President, I'd move that we remove Exeter from the Washington County Regional Planning Council.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, I won't vote on that, because, my God, that could be some kind of conflict as perceived. Could I also then ask you to indicate that I'm not representing Exeter any longer at this organization? Would you be kind enough to make that a motion?
I'm not sure we need to make that a motion. You stated it for the record, Mr. President.
Then we are no longer a member of
Correct.
the organization, so.
Well, I'm just trying to cover my ASS because this goes on. I've already sent a $500 check to the Ethics Commission. I fully admit that I did not indicate that I was treasurer, since I never did any treasurer duties. It didn't occur to me. But I'm trying to assure you, I mean, the public is, they're gonna listen to whomever they please. I just want you to know I did not handle any money. And what I've said to the Ethics Commission is that I will come to the hearing if I'm reelected. If I'm not reelected, let it go. If I am reelected, I'll use it as a teaching tool, put it on an agenda, and explain to people what issues can surface if you're not extra careful about how you complete a form. Because I know that I did nothing, I've done nothing that's been unethical. But that's for me to share with you. So, that's
You
my...
paid a $500 fine? You paid a $500 fine?
Yeah.
Are we getting a skew of things, Mr. President?
Yeah, we
Are we
are.
getting a skew of things? I mean,
So-
I think everything's been put on the record, and, you know, nobody
Okay,
really
well, I'm
thinks I did
sorry, I'm
anything
sorry that you want to cut me off.
No one's
But I'm
cutting
more
you
than,
off,
yeah,
Cal.
you are,
No,
I'm
we're
pretty
not.
angry about it.
Well, you should, Cal, no
I'm
one's
pretty
cutting you
angry.
off. I think the
So-
record speaks for itself.
Okay, thank you for that. We'll hear more about it, I'm sure, month after month. I would like to, after that's said, and if that's finished, I would like to ask our solicitor if you might possibly craft a letter to the Secretary of State's office indicating that Town of Exeter is no longer participating in the Washington County Regional Planning Council, and that, I don't know quite what else one can say, But since these filings go to the Secretary of State's office, I wish that there could be something on record there that we are no longer participating. That would be my thought. Is there anyone that wishes to pursue that, so that, or not? Or just let me?
If that's what you'd like, and it makes you feel better, I have no problem with that. Is that a motion? Or is that just a
He
directive?
can't move.
I'd like it
You're
if
the one.
someone else would.
I so move that.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Next. Item H, request to change date of December town council meeting
That's
from
aye.
December 5th to December 12th. Dr. Zuling?
Yes,
When are you doing the annual Christmas tree lighting?
Well, that's coming up
December
next.
1,
Will we win?
December 1, it's
Okay.
the Thursday following Thanksgiving. That's the next agenda item.
Okay.
But this one, I will not be here December 5th, so I'm asking that it be moved to December 12th so I can be here if there's a new council. For the first meeting of the.
I will make the motion to move the December meeting from December 5th to December 12th.
second,
That's a good thing if we got a bunch of, we don't know who's gonna be here. They could be 5 new members and you're gonna need someone with experience, so, yeah. Any other discussion?
Well, yes, I have some discussion. I plan my vacation around the town council meetings. It's not always easy, but that's what I do, and I won't be here that day.
You may not be here anyway.
None of us might not be here, no. Yeah.
Right, but I may, so I just, that's it.
I hope you are.
I think the most important people to be here are the council members. I mean,
I honestly
I don't want,
disagree with you on that.
I have never missed a meeting, and I really don't like missing, I don't wanna miss any. So I don't really wanna do that, I plan my meeting around it already. I think that's how we all should try to do it.
Does it have to be a Monday?
No, I can do it anytime. Anytime.
Doesn't the charter call for the first, for the Monday?
We can move it, we can move
It's
meetings.
close to the first, but you can move it, yes, it doesn't have to be Monday. So when are you on vacation?
Saturday 10 to Saturday 17.
and I know it's not ideal for you to miss a meeting, Mike, but it does happen, and all there needs to be is a quorum.
I don't wanna miss it,
Go
no.
on.
I understand, I don't
Just
wanna
like
miss it.
Manny said also, you might not be here, I might not
Right.
be here,
But
like,
we, right,
might
but
be a
we can only go by the information that we have right now. So I'm here now, the election's tomorrow, we won't know until probably Wednesday, the earliest. I can only assume that I may be here, and if I am, you're asking us, I'm involved in it, I'm here now. I'd like to request that we consider a day outside of that week. I don't think that's unreasonable to ask.
Yeah, Pat can do it if you wanna keep it at the 5th.
I agree with Dan, I think, no offense, Pat, Lynn's the clerk, she should be here, and no disrespect to any sitting council members, I think the clerk here is eminently more important to make sure that the meetings run orderly and everything's in order.
Well, we have a deputy clerk that's willing to do it, I mean, she's capable, she's done it, she's shaking her head, yes, she's done it many times. She's been working here for 30, how many years?
44.
44 years, I think she's completely capable of handling things in Lynn's absence.
I don't disagree with you, Mike.
She is.
Hey, I'm just making an argument to do my job, I just wanna be at the
do we
meetings.
wanna vote on this and see how it goes? and then-
Okay, did we have a second?
Yes.
Okay,
The dates are,
the motion was to move,
My dates are Saturday, December 10 to Saturday, December 17.
Could I ask one more question? Can I ask a question? Monday the 5th, does that mean there are no other days that week that you could meet? There are not.
you're coming back on the weekend.
Okay, so you'll be away for the
Yeah.
week.
I could do it.
You know, move the meeting to a different day of the week.
had a motion, did we have a second?
We had a second.
Okay, the motion was, I'm gonna run the vote anyway, the motion was to move the meeting from December 5th to December 12th. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the vote was 4-1. Okay, on to the next item on the agenda, J, annual Christmas tree lighting.
Yep, we usually do it the Thursday following Thanksgiving, so that would be December 1. We started planning it, we just need a motion that we can have one.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, annual employee appreciation luncheon. When you get council regular meeting under it, Lynn?
I'm upset,
that
I'm
part,
upset right
sorry.
now, I wanna just go back a minute, because I planned my vacation around the meetings.
They're going on vacation, Mike.
Someone else, excuse me, let me finish. Someone else, and no disrespect to Lynn personally, you didn't do that. And now I have to miss the meeting, and,
Sorry, Mike, I didn't know that you had planned
But-
a meeting.
but you knew when the meeting was.
Yeah, I did, you're right. I'm just saying, I didn't know you were going on vacation. Maybe I wouldn't have.
But you knew when the meeting was,
I did.
so I just wanna say that, that's upsetting to me.
Okay, back to item K, annual employee appreciation luncheon, and then you have council regular meeting.
Yeah, that got carried
Is that a
somewhere.
typo?
Cross that out, yes.
Okay,
So we're looking at December 13th. This is something that really, I think it was Cal started this quite a few years ago.
Was.
We do it at Exeter, at the clerk's office. Invite all the departments, we have it catered. And we need your approval to go to, do the expense, but we also ask that we can close that hour from 12 to 1.
Yep.
That day, so that, we can have our lunch.
what is that, a Wednesday? No,
13th.
Tuesday,
Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
Yeah, we do them on Tuesday.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 10, unfinished business. A, use of American Rescue Plan Act funds, Town Hall additions. Anything new?
No, I think we're still waiting for quotes from the architect.
Yes, I sent that note, he's supposed to give us his cost estimates, he said this week?
That's only Monday. Okay, so we're gonna continue to leave that on there. Number 10, unfinished business. Item B, July communication, number 16, Governor McKee, Rhode Island Capital Projects Fund, multipurpose community facilities matching grant.
So as far as I'm aware, they sent, the last meeting that we had, they sent all of the town's requests in one lump sum up to the treasury in Washington, so we're waiting, the state is waiting for approval. So it looks like we're gonna get it, there is no indication that we won't, which would be interesting because that would cover half of the addition cost.
Okay.
Half the addition.
400 and change of the estimated 850, if it comes in at 850. So,
Does that mean we can get a bigger addition?
I think it means that we save some money and can use it for something else.
So we'll leave that on there for,
Yeah, we'll see
okay.
if there's any more.
All right, next up is planning board and zoning board of reviews, policies and procedures.
Ken reworked them with Dixie, they all look good, they're just standard operating procedures that everybody agreed to, and they just need to get sent to the boards, correct? Yeah, for review.
For review.
Yeah,
So
I
we've
think
got,
the
this-
council
yeah.
motion.
This can be taken off the,
oh, we can take it off now?
yeah,
So we
the
need a
agenda.
motion to take item C, planning board and zoning board of reviews, policies and procedures off the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unfinished business, item D, Split Rock Mobile Park, request of electrical inspector Randy McGovern to obtain engineer's report and require violations to be corrected timely.
You extend that.
We've already, we've addressed that, so we're gonna leave that on there too. for next month. Item E, Boone Lake Enforcement of Ordinances. You're up, Jim.
Okay. Last month, you might recall, you asked me to look into the issue of essentially who enforces speeding on the lake, infractions on the lake, et cetera. Apparently, the background for this, from what I gather from the communications, was that residents of Boone Lake were upset with one particular individual. I don't even know the gentleman's name, but they complained, attempted to get the attention of DEM and also the state police for various complaints that they had, which they believed to be infractions of either the state law or the town ordinances or both. As you know, we do have an ordinance concerning Boone Lake operation, which was adopted according to statutory authority. I had heard, and I don't know if this was in the package, but I had heard that one of the state authorities was claiming that they had no enforcement over Boone Lake because it was private and not state waters. That's incorrect. The state statutes, which I've given to you in a memorandum dated October 28th, basically defines the waters of the state of Rhode Island as the jurisdiction of DEM. And we know the state police have jurisdiction throughout the state of Rhode Island. And I quoted the statute to you. All waters of the state of Rhode Island are within the jurisdiction of DEM. That does not say all public waters, it says all the waters within the jurisdiction of the state of Rhode Island. So that takes care of that particular issue, but not the problem, which is how do you enforce and who enforces. I cited you a number of laws that seem to be implicated or may be implicated either now or in the future, which are clearly DEM operable provisions, such as the operation of unnumbered boats, biannual registration. I know one of the gripes of the individuals was that someone was operating boats which they felt were not properly registered. Operations of motorboats in reckless manners to endanger, so as to endanger either persons or property. Operations of motorboats while intoxicated. I don't believe that was one of the claims, but it's certainly something that might come up at some point. Operation of motor boats in swimming areas and the like. All of these things, and also speeding at rates which have been established, and it says, quote, by appropriate state or local authority. State or local authority. Those are within the jurisdiction of DEM. So my conclusion is any of those types of violations or alleged violations should be brought to the attention of DEM, and DEM has enforcement authority over those. Now that also brings us to the authority of the state police. And that's a pretty interesting question. Apparently the state police have said, in response to communications, maybe with the town sergeant and others, that, or certainly with someone who made a complaint, that because this is a town ordinance primarily, that sets up certain speeding regulations and the like, that was something the state police could not enforce. And they suggested, an attorney for the state police suggested that the town send their town sergeant out to enforce. I found this very interesting because the state law says that anybody with arrest authority may enforce. Any police officer with arrest authority may enforce. So, if Scope Miller had arrest authorities and was a policeman, he would be able to enforce. So somebody at the state level does not have an appreciation for the state laws in this regard. Because Scope cannot go out and arrest someone. That would place not only Scope, but also the town in jeopardy if an arrest was made without probable cause or without authority. So that's a dangerous thing to tell people. And so right now, we squelch out when Scope cannot go out and do that. And he doesn't want to go out and do that because he knows
She doesn't
what
have
the balance,
boat.
he knows what the balance, and that's the other point, that's another point, Olivia, that I brought up in my memoranda. Not only that, not only does he not have the authority, but if we wanted to, we could. Imagine someone saying, this gentleman's speeding in his boat. How the heck do you prove that without a radar gun, without it being calibrated according to state law, without having someone who is authorized and registered to operate one of those, and then doesn't have a boat to go out and get the person? How do you do that? We don't have the ability from a practical level to do it. That's the second point. Biggest point being the lack of statutory authority. Finally, and this is perhaps something that needs to be reinforced, as I understand it, this town has spent approximately $200,000 or so to have 24-hour state police coverage, which is allocated to the town of Exeter for police purposes. It's not limited to the purposes of enforcing only state laws in the town. It's all police purposes. That to me is an obligation, a contract on top of the statutory obligation. And so to say that town ordinances such as these cannot be enforced by the state police, I think it's wrong from three levels. It's wrong from a practical level, it's wrong from the legal enforcement level, and it's wrong from the contractual level that we have with the state. So I'm not looking to have a big battle here, but we need to, I think, advise the residents when they have a problem like this of our clear position on it. And our clear position from a legal perspective. A clear position is that the only bodies that can now enforce and arrest people and investigate these types of complaints are DEM and or the state police. So you have my memo. I don't think there's anything in there, despite the fact that it is a memo to the council. I've now referred to it in this meeting at length, and I don't see why you can't share that with any resident that seems to, that feels it's necessary. I'll back up what I have to say there if the state authorities find something wrong with it. I'd love to hear what it is. And that's my report.
Thank you.
So, can we forward this to the Boone Lake Board of Directors?
As far as I'm concerned, Councilwoman DeFrancisco, you can forward that to whoever you would like.
Sounds like we don't wanna get in the middle, we let the DEM or state police do their jobs.
Yeah, and it's not because we
Let
can't.
the Boone
They
Lake
don't
people
wanna do that.
contact them directly, and we don't have to be in the
When
middle.
you read it was a woman that complained, correct, Scope?
Yeah, it's right here.
When you read her original complaint, she says she called DEM law enforcement and they would not even respond to her.
Which,
When I go through it with Jim, they regulate the boat, they regulate the registration. That's where the responsibility lies. But
We can't
we
check
don't
it.
know what she's saying is true. You know, it's
We
hearsay.
do not know. But the point is, that's correct. That's where they must go. Now, there may be problems with their ability to handle these kind of things, but that's not for us to explain. And that's the point. You know, there shouldn't be confusion over where it belongs. Whether it can be done and why it can't be done at this time, or whatever the excuse may be, is for the appropriate agency to advise a citizen who's making a complaint. It's not for us. And it's not that we're shirking anything, it's that we do not have the legal power.
Okay, any other questions? All right.
before you move on, I'd like the record of tonight's meeting, if it will already show, I think that Jim has made a report to us, and, which you're making a note, Lynn, obviously, of that. And I'm just wondering if it's not appropriate for us to, by vote, forward this to the Boone Lake Dam Management body, the people in charge, so they know we've officially addressed it. You've done a great deal of due diligence. I really appreciate this. It's very expansive. Anyway, I
And
would.
that would be a courtesy to the citizens at Boone Lake.
Well, let them know we didn't ignore it, and and their due diligence was done, and we wish we had a different answer, but our town sergeant doesn't have a vote.
I would add, if we had a
No,
police,
I'm kidding, that would not be part of the letter.
and Cal, I'd add that if we had an Exeter police force, we would have the ability to enforce our ordinance anyway.
I'm sorry, what?
If we had a police force,
He loves this part.
we would have the ability to enforce the ordinance ourselves. But they darn well know we don't have it. It takes it out of our ability.
Well, we have the state police that
Okay.
Correct, but we have to, in order to have an Exeter police officer enforced, we need a police force with enforcement and arrest powers under state law in order to be able to do it. We don't have it. And they do have those powers.
So can I just say, practically speaking, they're gonna contact the state police, we're gonna send this over to the residents of Boone Lake, and they're gonna contact the state police, and the state police are gonna say, there's nothing we can do about it. And I understand, you said you had some communication with the state police lawyer?
No, I did not. I received, I
His
think
opinion,
someone's
his
notes
opinion.
of comments that were made. I think a state police lawyer spoke with an individual from, I don't know.
What happened
There was
is,
some-
they wanted to meet with me, the one lieutenant captain down there, and this attorney, their staff attorney up there comes up with this decision, and that's what I forwarded Jim. Where basically they're saying, it's the town sergeant's job to
Yeah.
enforce it.
And Jim, your point is exactly on point, with that there's a contract with the state police now, which gives us more negotiation or more leeway to get them to do their job, and maybe that's something we need to point out to them. I mean, it should be readily apparent, but do you think,
Well, Manny, I think that the troopers on the ground that service the town don't understand the nature of the contract.
right,
And someone said, oh, we don't,
Hands off.
because in all the other communities that have police departments,
it's the police
the
department?
police department does those things.
Right.
We don't have one. That's the
Right.
reason why we paid them $200,000.
Should we point that out to them, that things have kind of changed now with the
130,
contract?
excuse me, I was corrected. I'm being overly dramatic.
Yes.
It's $138,000, which I'm sure to most citizens is as good as 200.
Do you think it would be worth having a communication with the state police saying things have changed just a bit now that we have a contract with the state?
Well,
Because I don't want
it's an extra
somebody
layer,
from
Mandy. I'll
Boone
say
Lake
this,
calling
yeah, it
nothing
certainly
happened.
has changed, but the state law is also, the primary reason here is we do not have anyone who is a police officer with arrest power. Neither of those two things, and that's what the law says, those are the people who get to enforce, according to state law. And that means DEM, according to their statutory scheme, where it says clearly that they have enforcement powers, and the state police, because they are police officers with arrest powers within the state of Rhode Island. Okay, so that's really the first issue. Even if we didn't have a contract, we'd be making that argument.
Yeah,
That's the primary, basic argument. The second one is contract, and the third one is the practicalities. We don't have police officers who are trained to do that kind of stuff, nor do we have the equipment or the expertise. And to tell us to do that is really, I think, that came from someone who really doesn't have a handle on all the facts and the logistics and the law on it. And I don't mean to be critical, but,
it is what it is, but that's why I'm saying, we want these issues addressed for the residents, and if the state police don't know what their job's supposed to be, maybe we should tell them what their
Great.
job's supposed
I
to be.
agree, be happy to have that discussion with whoever wants to call me.
Well, maybe for the next council that comes in, if these complaints continue, perhaps the solicitor should be, should be suggested that a letter be sent so that you can tell them how to do it.
If I'm here.
You'll be
Because
here.
I'm, no,
There's
I'm
one
a
thing I'm
council-
sure of.
I am a council appointee, as you all know, and I serve at the pleasure of the council.
I don't even think we should wait to see if more complaints come in.
No,
I agree,
believe
I think we should do it.
just, excuse me, politely and nicely maybe, or yes, always politely and nicely, but just, hey, this is what we agreed to, and this is the state law, and
Someone can handle this memo, because I don't think I'm being accusatory, I think I'm just laying out the law.
Then as probably my last motion as a town council member, I'll move that, we have some sort of communication with the state police, maybe by sending you a memo to them, so that they can see it in black and white what their
And
job
DEM,
really
you
is.
let
Yeah.
DEM.
DEM too.
Second,
Okay, well, I guess I didn't make a motion that we forward your report to the dam management district people. And I think that can be a secondary step that we take, but I think this should be
When it's forwarded to the dam management, can we just copy the state, please?
possible, well, I think they're two separate issues. I just want the people at Boone Lake Management to know that we addressed it, and here's what we found out. And then Manny's suggestion, I think, is a second step.
I agree, Cal.
I think we should first send it to them, let them know.
Cal, I'll second your motion to send it to the Boone Lake, management.
Thank you.
Okay, we good?
No,
All in
now,
favor?
we
Aye.
are, okay. Now, Manny has a, just a
Yeah,
minute.
just the
Manny
next
has-
motion is to,
Manny has another motion.
send it to the, DEM and/or CC the state police.
Second? No second? I'll
Well, we
second.
have, we do.
second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We good now?
Thank you, Jim.
Number 11, reports of officers, boards, and committees, town council assistants report, town council assistant Ken Finley.
Just a lot of administrative, couple policies, a couple RFPs, quite a few policies now. But the only thing I have to say is, like every 2 years, it's the same. Thank you all for, working very well together for the last 2 years, and I wish you all well. The happiest man.
Thank you,
I wish you well, you all have my vote.
Did all right.
Yeah, and as Olivia said, echo Olivia's comment, thank you, Ken, for what you bring to us,
And Maria,
and Maria.
and Lynn, and Pat, and everybody at the town hall that keeps this town afloat. And Rob, you're not at the town hall, but the whole DPW too.
He's everywhere else, and
Yes.
he's there too, he's all over
Yes.
town.
Also,
Let's go.
My turn?
He blended in with the background over there.
Item B, solicitors report.
After Ken just did that, how could I not say the same thing essentially? I will have to say that this council, just like every other council that I've been privileged to serve with, has really been a pleasure to work with, and I wish you all luck. I cannot, like Ken, vote for you, because I live in Lincoln, but you can all please rest assured that it's been nothing but a pleasure working with each of you, and I hope that continues. As to, and good luck to all. As to the remainder of my report, there are 2 items for executive session. One is an update on the Kayla Ritchie litigation, which I have some interesting progress to report to you on. And also on the DEM, DPW notice of intent to enforce and related investigations, which are executive sessions. Those, the 2 items are A4, and the DEM is B1 and C1. It's the same item, but one is litigation, threatened litigation, possible litigation, and investigatory matters. So I'll report further on those in the executive session if you choose to go into it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see, item C, reports removed from consent agenda. Mike, you had number 4, which is the tax collector.
I just wanted to read a paragraph on her November 1st memo in reference to delinquent motor vehicle files are being compiled for blocks to be placed with the State of Rhode Island Department of Motor Vehicles. Taxpayers have until November 11th, 2022 to pay in full before the block is placed. Once the block has been placed, taxpayers will be unable to register a vehicle or renew their driver's license. They also run the risk of having their vehicle impounded and their license suspended until taxes are paid.
Yep. Definitely last year. There's still 1 year left on.
Yeah, so, any there are people who are still doing
1
it
year
for
behind,
years. Yeah,
okay.
not 1 year, some of them are 5 years and 2 years, 3 years,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
All right, number 11 was Cal, and that was the.
That was me, actually.
Oh, I'm sorry, Danny, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Social services, so, I never had the pleasure of working with Jessica until the folks across from Town Hall, their fire burned down, we did a fundraiser. And she and I got together, and I hold an annual Christmas party and toy drive for my boyhood parish in Fox Point. And Jess and I thought it would be a good idea to do something for the underprivileged people in Exeter. And on the last page of her report, we're gonna do it in conjunction with the teen fair that's held at the library on December 3rd. So TN put together this flyer. The teen fair is gonna be 11 to 3. The Exeter Holiday Drive will take place from 12 to 3. We're also working with RICAN and a couple of other state agencies to try to gather as many toys and articles of clothing to help teenagers and young kids in Exeter. Through some of my contacts up the North Pole, I've arranged to have Santa Claus come in. Santa Claus will be there 12 to 3. We hope to take pictures, and it's going to be a wonderful event. We're going to take care of some of the underprivileged kids in the town, so we hope everyone can make it. Tell 3 or 4 or 5 people, and it doesn't matter if you bring 1, 2, 5, or 6 things. Try to bring something. We're going to have some refreshments there, and take a picture with Santa Claus. Jess does a great job, and I know we all know that. She goes above and beyond in her job for Exeter, and she is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
And everybody should come to this anyway, the kids' craft fair at the library.
Yes.
It's always a big and a great community event that brings people together.
What's the date again?
December 3rd, Saturday, December 3rd, 12 to 3, Santa will be there.
Thank you, Manny, for doing this
You
kind of
betcha.
stuff.
Okay, let's see, number 12, any other administrative issues? No. Number 13, communications, there was none. Number 14, executive session, no.
I'll move that we enter into executive session. And those matters already cited by solicitor.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
We got a 5-minute recess, restroom recess.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You just went to bring the papers to the car.
I'm getting old, you know.
I'm
there all day. I gotta sneak by. It's pretty good considering.
That's
a wrong
Have a good evening.
If that was,
Thanks.
I wasn't.
I'm not sure what city to look.
six people
Should
should
bring
bring
it.
None of them are wrong with that though.
I can talk to the state police and
I think about that.